Pantheon 2.0 is here, and with it comes 3 bosses previously removed from the game, now restored, 3 bosses with revamped fights, and a couple more coming very soon. Today, I'm going to show you how to tackle Destiny 2's final raid challenge, whether you just need a refresher or a full recap. Let's get it. The first batch of bosses consists of Argos from Eater of Worlds, Gahlran from Crown of Sorrow, and Calus from Leviathan. For the most part, all of these bosses return as they were back in the day, and my old raid guides will likely work just fine. If you remember how to do those fights, then you'll be fine without this guide, but if you never got to fight these bosses, or maybe you just forgot, let's review. Before we get to the bosses though, let's talk about team composition. My team cleared the regular version of Pantheon with no feats active, with pretty much the same loadouts every time. Truth rocket spam for my team, with myself on Banner Shield and Doomfang Pauldrons. Truth got updated in this final patch, and it's pretty good now. Bring burst damage supers as well. Nova Bombs, Golden Guns, Blade Barrage with shards, whatever you want. Still Hunt was also cooking, and I'm sure some more strategies will come to light over the coming days. The new Linear Fusion Fafnir from the Moments of Triumph vendor also saw some use. I'll probably make a new damage guide in the coming weeks, but for now, Truth was doing very well. The Argos encounter consists of 3 main chunks of platforms, each with its own cranium charging capabilities. Argos will have 3 energy balls on the corner of their shield, Arc, Solar, Void, in any combination of the 3. It could be 1 of each, it could be 2 Void, 1 Solar, it could be 2 Arc, 1 Void, anything. The goal here is to grab Vex Craniums, drop them in the corresponding elemental node, let them charge, and then use them to shoot the matching energy ball to drop the boss's shield. You'll find Vex Craniums from yellow bar hobgoblins in between these main platforms. Unlike the original version, you'll only have access to 3 craniums, so no damage craniums this time. If you happen to put a cranium in the wrong charging station, then when it's fully charged, grab it, use it, and a new hobgoblin will spawn, and you can just use that one. While you don't get unlimited time to charge craniums, the time you do get is very forgiving. Otherwise, during the encounter, you will have many enemies spawning all over the place, from harpies in the air to goblins, minotaurs, and wyverns on the ground. The boss will also target one person with a cage attack. If you're hit by this, you need to be shot out of this cage, otherwise you're just gonna float away and die. It's very easy to avoid this attack as long as you're moving though. Once you have the correct craniums charged, grab them all and head over to a position where you can guide the ball into the center. Simply shoot the cannon at the ball and it'll start to move towards the center. Track it to the center until it disappears and explodes. If done successfully, the shield will break and platforms will spawn around Argos. Argos has 6 weak points on their body, 2 on its head, 2 on its back, and 2 on its arms. You need to destroy 2 of these 6 before damage can begin. Once you break those points, lay into the boss as much as possible. Argos will be vulnerable for a short time, and then afterwards will retaliate with some attacking, including a cage attack. Spread out to avoid this. The damage phase will end a little while after, and you'll repeat this process until the boss dies. You have 3 cycles to kill the boss, since you will run out of weak points on the 4th cycle. That's the whole boss. It's a pretty simple warm-up. Gahlran clicks it up a bit, so let's go there next. Gahlran splits your team into groups of 2 split across the 3 sections of the arena. The goal here is to get Gahlran to kill each of the Gahlran's deceptions that spawn in order to trigger a damage phase. However, there's a bit going on in between which we still need to discuss. The fight should start with 3 people, 1 from each side, standing in the green pool next to the rally flag. This will give you Witch's Blessing. This buff expires after a minute and can be traded back and forth to other players using the nodes in the middle of the room. However, if the buff runs out of time while it's on you, you will die a short time after. People with Witch's Blessing can only hit certain enemies while others are going to be completely immune. Those without the blessing can hit the enemies that the blessed players can't. If your timer starts to get low, be sure to trade Witch's Blessing with your partner by having both of you going over to the node, standing within the circle, and then both of you shoot. Note that if you have the blessing, you can buff somebody else with a blessing by shooting the node from anywhere while the person without the blessing is inside the circle next to the node. This is because there is a mechanic that removes blessing, and you'll want to give it back out so that you can kill enemies. The fight will start with enemies spawning in for a little while. Eventually, a deception will spawn in on one of the 3 sides. Future deceptions will spawn in clockwise order. When a deception spawns in, both players on that side need to go inside the deception's shield and melee it, one blessed melee and one unblessed melee, preferably directly in line with the copy of Gahlran standing in front of them. This will stun the deception for a little while and also purge the blessing from the player who had it when the deception is stunned. Gahlran will then raise his hand for an attack and it will eventually turn green. Shoot his hand in this green state and he'll take out a giant cleaver and smash down in front of him, killing the deception and hurting anything else in the way. The now blessingless player should get a new blessing from someone else so that they can continue to kill enemies that only blessed players can kill. This process will repeat at the remaining 2 sections until all deceptions are killed. If you've already killed your deception, you're essentially just killing time, waiting for the other ones to show up. Once all deceptions are dead, all Gahlrans will raise their green glowing hands. Shoot one, then the other, and then shoot him in the face for a bit. 2 copies will disappear, and 1 will remain. While you rotate to the real Gahlran, you should refresh your blessing buffs since they won't go away during damage. Rotate over to the real one, do the hands mechanic again, and lay into him. He's going to do the hands mechanic a couple more times, just rinse repeat while doing damage. Those who are familiar with the original version of the encounter may notice that the crystal mechanic has indeed been removed from the fight, so you don't need to worry about that anymore. However, I believe it is a part of the challenge mode, which I will try to make a future video about. Rinse repeat this process until Gahlran falls over. The final fight of this block is with Calus, also essentially unchanged from the original vision. The fight will start with some ads spawning in, just clear them out. After a short while, Calus will clap and send everyone to the Shadow Realm. 3 orbs will be in front of a very short wall. 3 players must jump into these orbs, 1 orb per person. This will return them back to Calus in the normal realm while the others remain behind. This very short wall is the only thing keeping remaining players from being sucked away into space, so avoid jumping when close to this wall or you're going to be sucked into space. Those who stay behind should watch shadow Calus's forehead for a symbol, either a dog, sun, axe, or cup. 3 players will have 3 different symbols, leaving 1 missing. The players in the normal realm need to kill the scion with the missing symbol over its head very quickly to keep up this short guard wall for the next batch of symbols. If you don't do it quickly or you do the wrong one, the wall goes away, and that's bad. Players in the Shadow Realm need to avoid ramps and holes in the floor while being pulled up to the next wall. Scions and ghost scions are also going to appear. All of this needs to be killed. This process repeats itself a few times until the Force of Will phase. Also, Calus will be dropping some solar explosives in the room the entire time, noted with a pretty big animation and sound effect. When the Shadow Realm players get to the final section, Calus will get really mad and start spitting out a lot of skulls. I'm talking a lot of them. Each skull killed is a damage boost for the main damage phase. Kill as many of these as possible. On the inside, in the normal realm, Calus will be shielded and dealing damage over time to everyone in the room. His shield is not that strong, so you can stay for as long as your team has health to survive. And there are a lot more ways to survive in this room than there were in the past. Once you're on the verge of dying, break the shield to stop the skulls from spawning and to stop Calus's AoE. Shadow Realm players should exit via the orbs to return to the normal realm. This is where damage begins. My team liked starting top right and then going clockwise. You can go in whatever order you like. You can only shoot Calus from one of the 4 plates around the room. Stepping on the plate activates it, and you only get so much time on a plate before needing to go to a new one. Everyone should jump on the same plate at the same time and let the damage fly. Watch out for the solar bombs that Calus is going to drop on the plate as well. At 66% HP, Calus's true form, quote unquote, will show, and his weak spot moves to his chest. Keep rotating plates and damaging until you run out of plates or run out of ammo. You'll then repeat this process until Calus dies, and then take the elevator down. Calus does have a final stand where he gains a small shield, but this should be a very easy cleanup. That is the first block of Pantheon, which I imagine a lot of you probably already know or still remember to some degree. Now we're going to move to some of the revamped fights in Warpriest, Consecrated Mind, and Morgeth, and these are a lot harder. The same damage and team comp message applies here as well that I said at the beginning. We continued to use the same stuff: truth rockets, burst damage supers, banner shield, all that good stuff. You might notice that the warpriest encounter starts at the totems. That's because the totems and warpriest encounter have been combined into one. So, how does it work now? Well, you basically need to do the totem encounter, and then you do the warpriest encounter, and then you go back to the totem encounter, and then back to the warpriest encounter. Timers have been made a little more forgiving with the Brand Claimer and Brand of the Unraveler buffs, because you now deposit Deathsinger's power on one of the 3 plates in the warpriest room instead of the center plate in the totem room. The center plate is now occupied by the warpriest, but fortunately there isn't that much to do in this center room now, so he's not that big of a problem. For those of you absolutely clueless here, I'm going to give a full breakdown of this encounter in its Pantheon form. Split your team into groups of 3, players 1, 2, and 3 on the left, 4, 5, and 6 on the right. Players 1 and 4 are going to go off to the left and right, grab the orb, which will turn into the Brand of the Unraveler buff, and then sprint to their totems. If no one is standing underneath a totem, they will explode, and that is very bad. Kill as much stuff in here with the brand buff as possible. Every kill gets you more stacks of Deathsinger's power, and you want as much as possible. You also need the Unraveler buff because the room deals constant damage to anyone not under the shield made by this buff. Meanwhile, all other players should go to the Warpriest room and kill stuff in here. The Brand Claimer Knights will spawn on the left and right sides of the room after you kill a wizard in the same area. The left side is all the way up top. Killing these knights will drop an orb. One person picks this up to get the Brand Claimer buff, which allows you to take the Brand of the Unraveler buff from the person in the side room with the totem. Whoever grabs this runs to the totem person and claims the buff from them, although the Brand of the Unraveler does last for a little while, so just coordinate your timers. Note that in order to pick up the Brand Claimer buff from the Blight Guard, this is before the damage phase, you cannot have any stacks of Deathsinger's power. You can pick up buff from the Blight Guard with Deathsinger's power after you're worthy because it changes to Brand of the Unraveler after you're worthy. The person who had Unraveler will have it removed by the Claimer, and the former Unraveler should then run into the Warpriest room to deposit their Deathsinger's power onto one of the 3 plates. Both players who had this should be doing it at the same time, and we always put the power into the same plate every time. Then, the next person in the rotation should be getting the Brand Claimer to take off the next person on the totem, etc., until you have been deemed worthy via the deemed worthy message that'll appear after enough stacks are deposited. When this happens, stand clear of the 3 plates in the Warpriest room because standing on the plate while it's glowing red will start the damage phase, and you want everyone in the room before you start. So, when everyone is in the damage room, pick someone to stand on the plate to get this first buff called Brand of the Initiate. It will have 15 stacks and it'll lose 1 stack every second. To extend the timer of this buff in this version of the fight, you can do a couple of things, but they both revolve around Deathsinger's power. First, you should see who in the team still has stacks of Deathsinger's power on them as if they were going to deposit them, like actively on them. The 2 people with the most remaining stacks should be finding the Brand Claimers and picking up this orb. This is because when you pull the aura off of the person who picked it up from the plate, the Brand of the Initiate buff, the amount of time you'll have on this aura is based on how many stacks of Deathsinger's power you have, plus how much the person you took it off had. For example, I rip this buff and I have someone else take it when I have basically no time left on it. This person had 20 stacks of Deathsinger's power, so their buff went to 20 stacks of Brand of the Initiate when they took it off from me. 1 stack is 1 second. Then, the next person had 30 stacks of Deathsinger's power, took it off of the second person who had about 10 stacks remaining for a total of 40 stacks for another 40 seconds of damage. Fun fact, if you stack enough Deathsinger's power, eventually the warpriest will just say, nope, we're done, and will end the damage phase after a certain amount of time has passed. The other thing that you can do is with the brand claimer buff. Much like in the totem rooms, you can kill stuff in the boss room with this buff to gain more Deathsinger's power stacks, which is what I imagine Bungie probably intended people to do. This is in case you don't have anyone with high stacks going into the damage phase, but would actually like to deal some amount of damage. Brand claimers tend to spawn on the left and right, upper left and mid right, I should say, but the amount of enemies in this room gets to be pretty high, and visibility is bad as a result. So try to get a lock on them quickly and just grab the brand buff immediately. You will have time. When you're done with damage, hide behind a pillar to avoid the final attack, rinse, repeat until the warpriest dies. Next, the consecrated mind from Garden of Salvation. The original version of this second encounter was a glorified babysitting encounter, and the third was literally babysitting the boss with 3 people playing Gambit. The second and third encounters in Garden have been truly combined into one for this revamp, and it works so much better than both of them individually, in my opinion. So, what's changed? First off, the middle of the area is now open and is considered a 5th zone. To use baseball terms, if where you start the fight is home plate, then this is the pitcher's mound, the middle of the diamond. This zone is treated pretty similarly to all of the others. You still need to enlighten, remove shields, all that kind of stuff, although the middle player does not have as many adds to deal with compared to the corners. As a result of this 5th zone, you should have one person dedicated to each zone, and then the 6th person should act as a roamer, helping people out when something happens at their location. Next, the boss will be roaming around the entire time, dropping voltaic overflow on the ground, which needs to be picked up, otherwise you wipe. You might remember that you need to shoot sets of eyes on the boss when this happens. That is still absolutely a thing as well. That mechanic is where only the person who picked up the overflow can see 3 red eyes on the boss and needs to communicate which eyes to shoot so that they can be freed. This is usually grouped up in batches of inner eyes or outer eyes. However, it is very doable to do this completely by yourself with a sniper or a machine gun or something, but it's still nice to have someone back you up just in case. Usually this will be the roamer. Finally, the motes you collect will be from hobgoblins that just kind of show up in random spots in the arena and can be collected by anyone and deposited in the center console. There are now portals to the center of the arena in addition to the normal portals that took you around to the sides. This fight is much longer as a result, and the fight is more about trying to manage the amount of things happening all at once, as opposed to trying to do things in a very specific sequence. The fight starts with everyone splitting up into their sections and tethering to their totems until every totem has been activated in every section to open up the portals. Kill angelics in each section to open things up. Even this can be complicated to get rolling, so here's an example of how my team handled it. So here we have the consecrated mind arena. We have first base, second base, third base. Home plate is where you start. This is where the rally is. And then the new 5th totem in the center, the pitcher's mound. To start the fight, we had 2 people stay at home for a reason I'll talk about in a second. 1 person goes to first, 1 person goes to third, and the remaining 2 people go up the middle to the pitcher's mound to activate this totem. 1 person stays behind to help home plate activate their totem, and then they're also going to cut up the middle because they are either the person watching the middle or they're the person at second base. So, when you get to the middle here, after you activate the totem, there's like 4 or 5 enemies that are going to show up, 1 in each lane. And once you kill all of them, you can leave this middle arena for like a little while and be okay because there's not going to be any ads spawning. So we had the person who was covering the middle go over to third base, help them activate their totem to get this portal online. Me as the roamer, I went over to first base to get this portal online so I could come back to the middle. And then I shot up to second to help out this final person get theirs online. So at this point, everything is online, all the portals are online, all the totems are online. In the meantime, until you do a group tether, which is something I'll talk about in a second, you should just coordinate amongst yourselves to get new enlighten buffs and refresh that, because you are going to want to have those refreshed. because shielded enemies are going to start spawning in. The main mechanic is the Enlightened buff, where you will tether from the box in your lane to the totem in your corner. Shoot the box to activate it, which will start a chaining tether process. This requires 2 people to do at minimum and gives you Enlightened, which lasts just under a minute and lets you remove shields from enemies. If any enemies reach a totem, they will start to sacrifice themselves, and too many sacrifices means a wipe. It also means that you need to deposit even more motes into the center, so try not to let this happen, as this is already a pretty long fight. Monitor the messages in the bottom left to see when ads stop spawning so that you can rebuff yourself, whether by going to a teammate and tethering with them, having them come to you, or another mechanic, which we'll talk about right now. Shout out to Fallout for this one. You can do a group-wide tether, getting everyone enlightened by doing the following. All corner players tether to their box by themselves. Then, while everyone else is just tethered to their box, the 2 remaining players in the middle tether to their totem. So box, player, player, totem. If done correctly, you should all now have Enlightened, or anyone who was tethered should have Enlightened. This keeps everyone's timer linked up so that they're all the same, and it reduces how much traveling people need to do, although you can still do this mechanic in pairs if you want. I found that if you can time the group tether with the message "Undergrowth Defenses Deployed," connecting that tether as the message pops up, that you should basically never have Enlightened buff problems at all. Otherwise, this fight is purely about mechanic management. Killing angelics when they spawn in, killing shielded enemies so that they don't sacrifice, babysitting the boss so you don't wipe to Voltaic Overflow, continuing to refresh Enlightened, depositing motes, and teleporting around to help others. There is no set order you really do things in this mote collection phase. You're just constantly putting out fires until you've deposited 30 motes. Clear communication is super important here as a result, and there should be a lot of comms going on. Hey, the boss is here, I need help with the eyes. There is angelics on me, I need some help. Moat goblin on me, can I get a swap? Etc, etc. One tip I have for the motes is that you have 60 seconds to deposit them. They do not need to be placed immediately. It is much better for you to finish your current task and then deposit versus rushing to deposit and having something go wrong. For Voltaic Overflow, note that, much like the original, when you pick this up, you cannot pick up another one for 2.5 minutes, otherwise you will die. So if the boss comes back to your side, call for the roamer or potentially a third person if the roamer has already collected some overflow. Once enough motes have been deposited, the boss will run to the center, or float to the center. However, be sure you clear your waves of enemies first, because enemies will still be running to sacrifice themselves, even when the damage phase has started. Ideally, you should deposit the final motes as the game says Undergrowth Defense Subsided, because all ads should be dead by then, and then you don't need to worry about them. When the boss reaches the middle, they will activate all of their eyes. They'll all turn red. Shoot all of the eyes to reveal the boss's crit spot, and damage will begin. The boss will then pick a lane and move pretty quickly away from the center, so chase it down and let the damage fly. After that, everyone should go back to their start positions, rebuff with Enlightened, and start the process over again. The biggest thing for this encounter is consistency and clear comms. Once you get a good pattern going, stick to that pattern. It'll take a couple of attempts, but eventually you'll get there. The roamer needs to stay mobile, you need to listen, and you need to be able to see the entire map to cover. I was constantly looking around as the roamer. If I saw an empty section of the room, I would go cover it. I would see a low HP bar, I'd go help them. Motes on the ground, go help them. Roaming is super important. This is a pretty long fight, and the consistency will go a long way. Here's a couple of minutes as an example for how the fight should go.
Grouping up.
Group.
Nice. Datto, can you come get these motes on first, or
I got it.
Here,
If you're there, I'll cover you. I'll cover you.
Yeah. And I'm coming back.
Okay. Your box is active. I'm gonna turn that off.
Alright, get the hell out of here.
Insane name in the chat.
No one want to know.
Disgusting Chud is in the chat with a first time chat. Let's go.
Awesome. We'll fucking drop those motes, bro.
Okay, subsided. Get ready for group. Get ready for group. Get ready for group.
Chat.
Get ready for group.
Yep. Shot on first.
Okay. And grouping now.
Perfect.
Coming to first for the chud.
Boss is on third.
It's pretty hurt over there. Let's deal with the shielded guys.
Boost, I am coming to you as soon as I deposit.
He hasn't spit yet, so you're good.
Oh,
He's about to.
Jealous on home.
Rear eyes.
In.
Jealous dead.
Thank you.
Got you. Get ready for group. Okay, begin the group. Begin group.
Oh my god.
And group.
No. Wonderful.
Finally, we have Morgeth, who was a joke of a fight for pretty much its entire life. While it's not super hard now, it has been made into a pretty respectable encounter. The main mechanic here is collecting Taken Strength off of the ground for yourself. Taken Strength will fill Morgeth's meter faster if it sits on the ground, and if he ever gets to 100% and you don't stun him, you wipe. Taken Strength can be stacked to a maximum of 2. If you collect more than that, you die and all strength is dropped on the ground. What's changed about this encounter is now the person who frees the trapped player along with the trapped player are teleported into Riven's heart and a new mechanic begins. But let's start from the beginning. The fight starts by picking up the first Taken Strength from the ground in front of the boss. Adds will spawn, and eventually 2 more strength will spawn in. My team wanted consistency, so we had the person who picked up the first strength that started the fight also grab a second one for reasons I'll explain soon. Someone else should grab the other one. After those Taken Strength drop, Taken Captains will spawn that drop an Eye of Riven. Someone should grab this, ideally someone picked from before you started, and hold it until Morgeth traps a player. They'll be stuck for 20 seconds, and if nobody frees them from the trap, they die. The Morgeth trap will target people with 2 Taken Strength first, so having someone get 2 strength at the beginning guarantees that this person will be trapped. The person holding the eye should stand next to the trapped player and hit their grenade button. This will transfer any Taken Strength between the players as well, so the person who grabs the eye should have 0 strength going into this mechanic. Future exchanges can be 1 and 1 or 2 and 0, but that's it. Once the trapped player is freed, both players involved with this interaction will be teleported to Riven's heart, and 4 new strength will appear, all with last wish symbols attached to them. In the normal realm, 2 symbols will be visible behind the boss on the wall. The player in the heart must grab the strengths that do not match the symbols in the normal realm, and the person who freed the trapped player must communicate which of these to pick up, because only that person can see the symbols above the strengths in Riven's heart. It's just another classic, one person can see the info, one person can't. Communicate to solve this mechanic. What that eyeball doing?
No, I didn't. He's here.
Yoink. Okay, we're going in. What you got?
Fish swimming left.
Fish left in Uwu. Okay, so you're picking up this guy on Datto.
Okay.
And then you're picking up this guy. After those strengths are picked up, Riven's heart players should just keep killing ads, while the outside team continues to pick up strength of their own and do the Eye of Riven and trap mechanic so that they too are teleported inside Riven's heart. The symbol mechanic happens again, grab strength until everyone is inside the heart. The main issue you'll run into here is just the balancing of taking strength on players. But as long as the total strength between the 2 players doing the trap mechanic is 2, you should be fine. So 2 on one, 0 on another, or 1 and 1. 2 and 0 I think is just better for consistency. 3 or more is no good, but 1 or 0 is also not good. Once everyone is inside, Morgeth teleports inside, and damage will begin after picking up a final strength. 2 taken captains will spawn inside, usually one before damage and one right around when you start damage, which both drop Eyes of Riven. These stay on the ground for about 40 seconds. Morgeth's power will continue to build, and to reset his power, you need to launch a super from the Eye of Riven pickup. You should do this as close to 100% as possible to maximize your damage uptime, but I would just do it around 90% for safety. You don't need to hold the eye the entire time either, but if you do kill a captain, again, the eye only stays on the ground for about 40 seconds, so just be careful and watch your timers. When Morgeth is stunned, damage ends, and you repeat this process until you reach Final Stand. Oh yeah, Morgeth has a Final Stand now. When you hit this threshold, a portal will open after Morgeth leaves. Jump through, and you will need to do the platforming section that you normally run during Last Wish before Morgeth. Waiting for you at the end will be a bunch of taken strength, which all need to be grabbed before damage can start. So if you're too slow, you won't have enough time to kill Morgeth. Collect all of the strength, group up, and knock over Morgeth to beat the encounter. There is still more to come for Pantheon, and right here will be the follow-up video to the remaining bosses whenever that video is live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.